Listen to this episode of Before, Behind, and Between to hear the voices and stories behind the use of radio in serving human needs in South Sudan. This episode is the second of two special episodes that help commemorate the UN's World Radio Day.
Starts now.
Radio services society, sharing vital information during natural disasters, socio-economic crises, epidemics, and other important events. Public service announcements, alerts, and broadcasts are but a few examples of how the medium provides services and solutions to best meet listeners' needs. It connects people, forging or maintaining links, affirming its central role for today and tomorrow. More than ever, we need this universal humanist medium, or so says the chief of UNESCO. Without it, she maintains, the right to information and freedom of expression, and with them, fundamental freedoms, would be weakened, as would cultural diversity, since community radio stations are the voices of the voiceless. On this World Radio Day, UNESCO calls on everyone, audiences, radio broadcasters, and audio professionals, to celebrate radio and its values and to promote reliable information as a common good, concluded Ms. Azoulay, Chief of UNESCO. This episode features many voices that explain how the use of radio has served as a powerful teaching tool in South Sudan. This audio is reproduced from Global Human Stories, an episode published February 13, 2021 by UN Radio News, and is done so with express permission from UN Radio News for the purpose of communicating, celebrating, and informing listeners about World Radio Day and the various roles that audio plays in the lives of people around the world.
Learning is a part of human development. A human being has to continue learning.
It encourages interest in education because it's on the radio. Education's on the radio, and therefore it must be important.
Hi, I'm Connor Lennon, and you're listening to The Lid Is On, the flagship podcast from UN News. Many UN News listeners with children are having to get to grips with a new reality involving homeschooling using online tools such as Zoom. But in South Sudan, where the population has limited internet access, radio is the best way to ensure that children under lockdown are still able to stay in touch with their school.
Education on air. School to your homes. Don't miss our interactive radio instruction lessons in English language, mathematics and sciences from 10 to 11 a.m. and 2 to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday.
Radio Moriah, which is run by the UN mission in South Sudan, or UNMISS, has begun broadcasting educational programs with the aim of reaching schoolchildren, even those in the most remote communities. Mawit Johnson is a teacher in the capital Juba, and during the lockdown, he's been broadcasting lessons on Radio Moriah. He told my colleague Ratko Petrovic, the chief of Radio Moriah, why it's important to keep lessons going.
Learning is a part of human development. A human being has to continue learning. So we see that this lockdown may give children a lot of time to play around, even getting involved in the wrong activities. Either in the rural areas or in the urban centers, children will be involved in other wrong activities. We give them information that they will continue to do. Even if they are at home, they will be doing some homework, they will be doing some assignment for the next lesson. Another important thing also we see into it that it will engage the teachers also to continue teaching even if they are locked down. They will continue to teach.
Can you give us some brief summary of the content of the programs?
So for primary section, we have 3 subjects. That is English, mathematics, and science. And then for secondary, they have lessons in chemistry, lessons in biology, lesson in physics, lesson in mathematics, lesson in English. We are beginning from the basics of that topic, then we drive them slowly. At the end, we give them assignment. So at the end of the lesson, there will be assignment for the learner to do. So that has been the content of the material that we are presenting.
Although these remote lessons are on the radio, There's also an interactive element. Students are encouraged to call in and pose questions directly to the presenters.
Yeah, our listeners outside there, I think it is your time now. Pick up that phone, then you share the lesson with us. So we don't want to be wasting a lot of time. I think our callers can begin coming in. Then you ask questions pertaining where you have not understood well. You answer questions. You even give us your comments in case you have them. Then our lesson moves on very well.
Whenever the program starts, the children will be able to take notes slowly, as the teacher dictates the note on air. Then the children will be able to pick the audio of the teacher and then they write down the note. Then later, when time comes for call, we give them, the children have phone next to them, maybe from the parent or from any guardian that they have at home. Then the child will be able to call through and then tell us the areas of difficulty so that we also repeat. So this is how we are doing it.
Have you heard from your fellow teachers, from parents, from school children? What are the reactions?
Yes, we are getting feedback from those three. We are getting feedback from the learners immediately when we are conducting the lesson. They call and they tell us they appreciate what they have understood, and they also give their suggestion on other areas that they did not understand. Also, for the side of the teachers, some of our colleagues have been calling us. They say yes, the program is good. They are getting they are getting us on here and how the lesson is going on. Also, on the side of the parent, they are happy.
South Sudanese teacher Mawit Johnson explaining to the head of Radio Mariah, Ratko Petrovic, the benefits of the station's educational programming. It's hard to exaggerate just how important radio is in South Sudan as a way to reach a large number of people, particularly during the current COVID-19 pandemic, when the UN is trying to spread important health messages. David Shearer, the UN mission chief, told my colleague Fran Mould that radio far outweighs other media in the country.
1% of people might get TV, maybe 4 to 5% might get some sort of social media, but 84% of people get or listen to radio, and 78%, I know there's a lot of figures in there, but 78% of people in South Sudan listen to the UN's Radio Mariah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Radio Mariah? How important is the role of Mariah in giving people information, not just about UNMISS, but about news and current affairs in their country?
Radio Mariah is set up basically to try and let people know about what's happening. We try to be, as much as we can, impartial and neutral. We bring in all different types of voices onto the radio. So on a Saturday morning, we have a round table with all the different political parties. People are able to phone in and ask questions of these people. And it's become well and above the most listened to radio in South Sudan. It's not only just serious stuff, they also have music and some laughter on it. It's entertaining. But it is, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is for the people of South Sudan to hear the voices of their leaders and the people from their particular areas being able to speak freely on the radio without any problems of censorship or restriction.
Radio Mariah has probably become even more important given the COVID situation in South Sudan. Can you tell us a little bit about what the situation is like, the number of cases and the impact that it's having on communities?
The number of positive cases is rising exponentially. And we are, I guess, in some ways, South Sudan is in a phase that perhaps Europe was in the middle of March or the end of March, somewhere around there, where it's sort of taking off. It's very difficult in South Sudan to completely social distance. People and families here live in larger extended family communities, so they're in compounds of more than a dozen. People go to markets to shop. It's impossible to close a market because that's where people get their food from, and two, people are selling things in the market. That's their livelihood. If they don't sell something, then they effectively don't eat the next day. So closing down things, as we've done, as it's happened in many other countries, is really not possible. Having said that, we have done a really big campaign across Radio Mariah. It's on 24/7, explaining the dangers and the issues around COVID, how to avoid getting it. talking about social distancing, hand washing, wearing of masks, all of those things. So the understanding of COVID is very well advanced. It's just simply very difficult to implement in a country like this where people depend on close contact with each other.
Obviously, like other countries around the world, education has been affected. Schools have shut down. Children are not able to carry out their learning together in classrooms anymore. Can you explain to us a little bit about how the initiative or the idea came about that Radio Mariah could help with broadcasting lessons to children?
It really came about as a partnership between three parties, really. One was the Minister of Education here in South Sudan, who came to us and said, would we be able to put on lessons across Radio Mariah? And that was backed up by UNICEF. So the three of us got together and worked out that if we were able to put a 1 hour lesson on in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon, this would be able to get to young people right across the whole country. So that's what we're doing. It's been really well accepted. Look, it's got its limitations. Let's face it, an hour-long lesson over the radio isn't as good as somebody sitting in a classroom. But what it does do is it imparts, obviously, some real education value. Secondly, it encourages interest in education because it's on the radio. Education's on the radio, and therefore it must be important. And three, it encourages people who maybe don't have access to schools to understand what education's really all about. So my feeling is it's got an important here and now value, but it's got wider values that are going to be even more important. And also, of course, it builds that relationship between ourselves and the government and the Ministry of Education that'll set us up for things in the future.
These people go there to get immunized against they receive what we call tetanus vaccine.
And it is tetanus toxoid.
Tetanus toxoid, yeah.
That is the vaccine,
yeah.
TT. Yeah, for him was giving polio. Then I was wondering because I did not hear about it there. You can still call in 0923 600 300.
The presenters of Radio Mariah there, broadcasting health advice, and earlier you heard David Shearer, the Special Representative of the Secretary-General in South Sudan and head of the UN mission in the country, outlining the crucial role played by Radio Mariah. The educational programmes are part of an initiative involving the South Sudanese Ministry of Education and the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF. UNMISS is hoping that other radio stations will carry these lessons simultaneously by hooking into Radio Mariah's signal during broadcast times so that children in every part of the country can benefit. Teachers such as Mr. Johnson admit that they're missing the face-to-face interactions they had before lockdown, but for now, Radio Mariah is helping them to make a useful contribution towards educating the young people of South Sudan.
Most of the teachers were locked down, and we were finding it very hard really to go ahead with this life that we're locked down. But at the moment that we are engaged, even if not all of us are engaged in it, we look at it as a positive thing. We are finding ourselves being useful. Also to the society, yes, we are continuing what we are doing in the school, we are continuing giving it on air. So it is positive that it is contributing to the community also.
We students we have been affected by the COVID-19 this year. So I think education here is a benefit mostly because we learn so many things.
It is something very nice, but it's good for the people that who is understand and they have the phone or they have the radio listening.
Although the coronavirus has closed everything here in all South Sudan, on that listening or radio, they will benefit them. I feel happy indeed.
Education on air at 10 to 11 a.m. and 2 to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. Learn during this COVID-19 period.
You've been listening to The Lid Is On. Thanks to Ratko Petrovic and Fran Mold at the UN mission in South Sudan, without whom this podcast would not be possible.
Visit stephenchristiansen.ca for more episodes of Before, Behind, and Between. This podcast is available on all podcast platforms and streaming apps, including Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn. And be sure to check out more content like this at UN Radio News and UN Podcasts. I'm Stephen Christiansen. Thanks for listening.
A production of Stephen Christensen. Podcast complete.